tried to beat Roy Moore in the primary would like Roy Moore to get out, and they'd like to beat him in the general. And apparently they would rather have a liberal Democrat for 6 years, and maybe for the next 30 years, than have somebody that they believe is tainted, who, by the way, they opposed long before the Washington Post story. What we also know is that Roy Moore apparently is a very tough guy, and he ain't stopping. So now it's up to the people of Alabama. But this idea, which I heard suggested over the weekend, that maybe they wouldn't seat him if he won, I mean, are people just losing their minds? Under our Constitution, the people of the state of Alabama have the right to decide who their senator is. There's no provision that says that the U.S. Senate can decide that they've chose the wrong person. Now, whether Moore can win or not, whether he can knock down these stories or not, I mean, that's his problem. And the burden is on him to convince the rest of us that he is worthy of being a U.S. senator. Not to convince, I shouldn't say the rest of us, to convince the people of Alabama. But let's be very clear. This is an Alabama Senate race in which he has to talk with the people of Alabama. They have to decide what their duty is. And I am, frankly, a little disappointed in people in Washington who take the totally phony news of the Washington Post, immediately rush to judgment, and then compound by having read their own statements and decided they were right. Going a step further, this guy's never had a jury trial. He's never been indicted. There's never been a chance to measure up against his accusers. And I'm not defending him. I'm just saying it's amazing to me to watch.
Well, you and I are in the same position.
The lynch mob can form.
I don't know.
I remember still when you were a mere child. I remember Clarence Thomas walking into that Senate hearing room and talking about a modern day lynching. And I remember how whipped up and how excited the liberals were and how they had this wonderful witness. And I watched all of them melt as Clarence Thomas just took them to pieces. And so I would just say that we ought to be a little cautious. I'm not picking sides here. I'm just saying I haven't interviewed anybody. I haven't looked at the evidence. I haven't seen anything which suggests that we know right now. And that's why in the next few weeks the burden is on. I think the burden clearly is on Roy Moore, and he's going to have to go out and prove his case. But I do think that the most destructive thing they could do is set up a write-in. And again, it's all outsiders. I don't see any Alabama movement for a write-in. And so I'm just watching as an observer, trying to understand exactly what the dynamics of this are.
You know, I learned a valuable lesson. I've explained this now many times on the air to my audience, and I just want to bring you up to speed. You know, when I was in Atlanta, and I remember the Clarence Thomas thing as vividly as you do, and I also remember Herman Cain, who's a mutual friend of ours, as soon as he got out of the race, no more charges, nothing, it all ends. But I didn't know the day the Atlanta Journal-Constitution came out with Richard Jewell, the guy we thought was a hero, fits the profile of a lone bomber because he lives with his mother. I didn't know he was listening to my radio show that day, and I said, wait a minute, that does not make him the bomber. And I was the only one, and he gave me one of the first interviews he ever did because he had been listening and said I was the only one that was fair. You know, but the media's been wrong about Duke Lacrosse. They rushed the judgment. They were wrong about Trayvon and Zimmerman and the jury verdict there. They were wrong about Hands Up, Don't Shoot in Ferguson. They were wrong about Freddie Gray and all those cops who were going to be found guilty in Baltimore. Frankly, they were wrong about Trump even having a chance of winning, or Obama, and then you bring up Clarence Thomas. And I am right now being excoriated because I believe in the presumption of innocence, and I practice that since I was in Atlanta for the reasons I just mentioned.
Well, let me just suggest to you.
And by the way, he may be all guilty. You're right. He's got to now show that this is not true.
If he is guilty and he can't prove his case and he loses the election, he loses the election. Well, let it be in a fair conversation with the people of Alabama and a fair chance to defend himself, not some lynch mob.
All right, got to take a quick break. We'll come back more with Newt Gingrich and your calls, 800-941-SEAN.